And okay, we have to click the OK button now. So thank you for the recording. And Ebe Kartus will give us an insight of the implementation the National Library of New Zealand did. Some of you may remember that in January we had 2 colleagues from the DNB in Frankfurt for the DAF implementation, RDA implementation. And I'm very happy to have this in as a follow-up and such like a series to see how many different approaches you can take to implement the new official toolkit. And we are so eager to hear from you, Ebe, what you did, and perhaps you can give a short introduction about your person at first. Thank you so much, Ebe, for coming.
Well, kia ora, good morning, te reo mikust, and thank you, Renata and the RSC for inviting me on behalf of Te Puna Mautaranga o Aotearoa National Library of New Zealand to show you how we at NLNZ have decided to use the features in Toolkit to provide our cataloguers the guidance they need in their everyday work. So let me see if I can share my screen this time, and hopefully it will work. Let's try it this way.
Now something is happening. Yes. The screen is there, the presentation is there, and you can click in the full presentation mode, perhaps.
Yes, I will. Now let's. Oh, it's still not reading the screen, is it?
Yeah.
There should be a button on one of the screens that you can flip the presentation.
Normally it's on the bottom of the presentation. Yes, just on the bottom is
Let me just see, as with all things live, yes, of course it's recording and I'm making a mess of it.
Oh, no. Take your time. It is at the
Damien, you were saying that...
Bottom
so
line
go into the slideshow mode like you are.
Yep.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Yep. And then on the screen that's for the presenter, that black screen, there should be an option.
I'm using an old version of Microsoft, of PowerPoint. So it should be it should be coming up on this particular screen, and I have absolutely no idea at this stage why it isn't. So if I'm going to... Thank you. So kia ora, good morning, te reo mikust. Thank you to Renata and the RSC for inviting me on behalf of Te Puna Mautaranga or Aotearoa National Library of New Zealand to show how we at NLNZ have decided to use the features in Toolkit to provide our cataloguers the guidance that they need in their everyday work. Some of the presentations that we have given before that provide some of the background to our implementation, and I would like to highlight the third point down the bottom, that Charlotte will be giving a presentation at the NARDAC Spring Forum next week on further highlighting further our implementation at NLNZ. So some further background for what the team uses is that we describe published resources only. We don't do unpublished or archival material. The policy statements are written by and reviewed by the core policy group, and these consist of the senior cataloguing, senior collection description specialists and our 3 team leaders, plus our authority control specialist and our metadata specialist, so altogether 10 people. For the majority of the cataloguing at NLNZ, we create national bibliography records. We do have some other records that come into our catalogue. Of course, we have other material. and the National Bibliography descriptions are then made available to download off our website, but also, of course, we share them with OCLC. We implemented official RDA on the 1st of August in 2024. And when we did, we left original RDA behind. We have not gone back to it, and we have not used it. So we are only using official RDA. Some of the choices we made when we started using official RDA was that every option at every element will have a policy statement, even if the policy statement is do not apply. In some cases, it's of course you need to go and get values from other elements and then put these together. We also decided not to use any soft deprecated elements because they will ultimately or eventually disappear. So rather than then retraining cataloguers or trying to find other pathways, we've decided not to go there in the first place. As you can see, we're implementing it for all formats. We haven't started on cartographic works yet, but that's the training materials are being written as I speak, and we hope to start that in the next month or so. We have various metadata application profiles that we call maps, and these are for various types of resources, and I'll show you some of those going through. One thing that we also decided to do was to have one profile for the whole institution. So every cataloguer logs in with this profile. What this means is that any changes that we make to either any policy statements or any guidance or anything else is picked up by all of the cataloguers. Nobody has some outdated links or ways of looking at things. So it's across, so everybody gets the same information across the board. And of course, why I'm speaking to you this morning is that all of our RDA documentation will live in the toolkit. This is a list of the documentation we have in Toolkit to date. So I will be going through most of these during this presentation. There's two ways of putting documentation into Toolkit. It's either via the CMS or there is also an HTML editor. Now, this policy statements sit within the CMS or the content management system. So they are driven, of course, by Toolkit releases, as anybody who has the policy statements in Toolkit will know. The other documentation in the HTML editor is under our control. So it's under NLNZ control, and we can update it, change it, add it as we please, when we please. And due to this, we have actually decided to use the HTML editor for most of, for all of our documentation other than the policy statements. So the editor is WYSIWYG. You can do it, put your dot points in, your abstract, italics, etc. Or you can use a HTML code. You can write that outside and then put it into Toolkit. And there's an image here of what in this instance, a file type would looks like in Toolkit. So that could have been done WYSIWYG. I have done a lot of some of this work actually in the edit in Notepad++. That's the editor I tend to use, and that's exactly the same snippet, but in HTML code. There are a couple of little things you need to bear in mind when you're using the code, but I'm happy to answer that at a later date. Okay, now I'll try to actually go and do some live demonstration. And here we have IKEA, and we know that they are known for their mischievousness, and live demonstrations can be somewhat the same, as I found out this morning. And so you never know what you're going to happen, but here goes. I'm going to hopefully be able to switch my screens to Toolkit, and that isn't showing. So I'm going to try to put that up there. And can people see the Toolkit?
Yes, we can.
Yes. Thanks. Okay, so the Toolkit, all of our documents live in documents. So I've already gone to documents here, and I have just received something that I need to catalogue, New Zealand alpacas. So I have made it's a magazine, it's a journal. So I will go down to my serial work map. We always start at a map. That's our first point when any cataloguer starts. So I will click on my map. And to make sure, yes, I've got the serial work map here. I can also just double check that I've got the right map by looking at the extension plan here. These are other required elements. So it's a successive indeterminate plan. Yes, tick on that one. And another thing to bear in mind that the maps only list the commonly used elements. We don't try to list every single element that any particular resource may require. So these are the elements that most of these types of resources will need. If, however, your resource needs another element, you can always look in Toolkit and add it to the resulting description set. So let's look down further on our map for serial works, because of course there's the WEMLOC. We also have some guidance here on our entity boundaries, or if we record new instances. So if, for example, here we've got carrier type. If I click on here, I will go to the guidance document on entity boundaries, and it will just take a minute to get there, because I think sometimes we find that there must be something on the bottom of the seabed that nibbles away at our cables. So here we go directly to diachronic works. This is in the entity boundaries, and we can find that for individual works consisting, we use this particular element. So we know what we need to do here. We can then go back if I need to find out any further guidance on describing this. If changes are required for a new instance, I can also go to there. That links in through to a further part of the guidance. And it sometimes is a bit slower. So describing a manifestation, here we have options for recording a new value of the element. So again, this gives further guidance to the cataloger if they are looking for various variant values in a particular element. So, okay, that's all very good. So if I then go down, I'm going to do a data publication. So I've checked my entity boundaries, I've checked that. If I needed to do, that's all fine. I'm told if to add it if applicable, or if I can put in, need to put in an additional instance. Anything that it is mandatory, I'm told that as well. So if I go to date of publication, okay, I'm at my element. I read any pre-recording guidance that I may need to read. I know that I'll be recording this as an unstructured description. We tell all our cataloguers what type of recording method to use for the particular element, or if there's only a particular recording method that we need for a particular type of element, sorry, a particular type of resource. So we do have these applies, do not apply, sorry, do applies. So I actually, I'm not sure if I have a known date on my New Zealand alpacas. But the serial works, I'm told to go and see NLNZ guidance. So I will click into NLNZ guidance. And that should be coming up. And at this stage, why isn't that coming up? Okay. So we have a date of publication. So we're told that we had to record it as an unstructured description. And here we are, we have the condition, an exact date is not known. The option is whether to record an approximate date. And here we are, for serial works, we supply the date if it is within 1 or 2 years. So, okay, I know now what I need to do. And that has decided to completely drop out on me by the looks of things, because it's not giving me a back button, which it normally would. So let me just go up to the top and go into my documents again. And go back down to my serial works map. Okay, so I have got my, go further down to my data publication. Okay, so I've got my date of publication that I need for my New Zealand alpacas. I've gone to guidance to see if there's anything there. And now I can also, if I'm not 100% sure of what I need to, let's do it this way, of the encoding that I require, I can also go to encoding. We do have our encoding document up, so I will, in this instance, I'm actually going to just duplicate this tab, and I can bring up my encoding document, which I can have, of course, up. Still quite early in the morning in New Zealand, and obviously the links haven't quite woken up yet. All right, so we also have our encoding document up. So if I needed to, there's various ways to navigate through. We have guidance here on this, but I would need to actually look for a date of publication. So I can go down to manifestation, and then I can scroll this way, or I can do Control F and put in the text and find it. But here we are, date of publication. If I'm not 100% sure, I can then look at where we are encoding the data. As you will have noticed, we have not in our guidance, we have not put in the encoding. So if we, for example, go to another element, so I've done my data publication, but what about if I need a carrier type? So if I click on carrier type, I can also, there's guidance here. If I go to another link to guidance, it is opening up in a new tab. So I can always have that the guidance document open. You will see we have guidance for various carriers, but we also have just the examples for that particular element. So the guidance is always context specific. So we will, for example, here, if we've got a multiple unit manifestation, we're using the unstructured description. We put the value that we would potentially record in bold, so it's easy for our cataloguers to see that this is where the type of material that we would the way that we would record this value. But again, there is no encoding here. It is only RDA. The encoding sits in a separate document. All right, so we are back at our map, and we've looked at our carrier type, but we also have, since this is an online serial, we can have an encoding format. So if we go to the encoding format element, and here we navigate backwards and forwards from the toolkit as we are constructing our description. We again look at all this information, but when we go to recording our structured description, we have our VES. So we can open up another document that has our NLNZ VESs. In some areas, we decided to have our own VES. And here is our encoding one. So we have put in the lists of the controlled vocabularies, with also indicating where we would encode that in this instance in our ILMS, and we've got a list of our VESs that we can use. Okay, so once we select elements, select values, we can also need to put them together. So another element that we have for a serial work is for sorry, I'm scrolling down. Normally you would just use it as, and people, of course, catalogers can choose element by element. So we do have an element of an issuing corporate body that we may have for serial. Again, there's guidance is given here on whether we need to look for entity boundaries or other instances. Okay, so we have an issuing corporate body. So let's go to that one. We know that we need to record this as a structured description and record this as a value of corporate body authorized access point for corporate body. So let's click on that element because that's where we need to go, because that's the way that we are recording the value. And we continue to scroll down, because you read your policy statement first, and then you read the option, because if it's do not apply, don't even bother going there. But we then also have further guidance here that we use this page to select our appropriate values. And then we go to this part of our string encoding scheme, which tells us how we put all of these values together. So again, we can link, we've got all our values that I need, and then I can go directly to our string encoding scheme, which tells us what we need to do with either the authorized access point or a variant access point. It gives us guidance where we need to put spaces. It will say, give us guidance here, for example, what we need to do between abbreviations. So, and most of this string encoding scheme is very familiar to people. When we rotate names, the information is all there, parentheses preceded by space, but we also then potentially have a place, New Zealand. So I've actually further guidance, language guidance for how I might need to abbreviate place. So I can go to our language guidance document. So here we are, we've now gone to the language guidance. It picks up place because that is where I need to go to find abbreviations. And here it will give me the list of abbreviations that I might need. So you will also notice that here we have decided to put the languages, put together a document for languages, because we often get material in different Pacifica languages, and that is of importance to our community. So to help our cataloguers, we have rearranged this, the language pages to give preference to New Zealand and Pacifica languages. So yes, while a lot of material is in English, so that is at the top, we then have further guidance on Maori, on Te Reo, and then further Pacifica languages where we may get resources, because we do have also large communities here in New Zealand, and then we move on to other languages if you have the material there, so if required. Okay, so we are now, so that pretty well, I've finished describing my New Zealand alpacas. I've gone to the elements I need. I've got my values. I know what my encoding is because I've got an encoding document that tells me how to encode this. We are using Mark 21. And I'll put my record in. Fine, great. Okay, I now need to pick up the next resource that I have that's landed on my desk. And that is, let me just use this one. And this happens to be a picture book, The Curse of the Vampire Robot. Okay, so it's a picture book. So this may be a little more different, because picture books, of course, are aggregates. So we do have further guidance on aggregates. So I will go down to my aggregate guidance, because we have, while the majority of our guidance sits in one particular document, aggregates are new to official RDA. So we have decided to put together a specific aggregates guidance document. So I can go here and I can start looking at further guidance on this and how we at NLNZ have decided to treat certain types of aggregates. So I start at the top. Okay, what sort of aggregate manifestation do I have? And here's the kind of aggregate that I could potentially have. So I can start reading through my guidance, and this guidance will, of course, then also allow me to select my appropriate map so I can actually start describing the resource I have in hand. So I go through and see how many works are embodied in the manifestation described, and we have guidance on if it's this material that we have decided not to count in aggregates. So I think I might actually have an augmentation aggregate. So I can read, if I've read through my guidance previously, I can always think, oh, I think it's actually this. All right, let's have a look at an augmentation to see if I do actually have an augmentation aggregate. I've got my definition up here, and I've got some of the examples. I can look at further diagram of how augmentation aggregates work. And there is also I've got one manifestation, at least 3 works, and so forth. So, but the main thing up here is a picture book for children, which is what I have. I've got the Curse of the Vampire Robot. So yes, this is I do indeed have an augmentation aggregate, and it will actually also, it tells me that I need to use a static augmentation aggregate still image map. So not an issue there, and I will go to there in a minute. But if I just want to even double check that, yes, this is right, I can always, of course, go to some examples, augmentation aggregates. Yes, this is what I think I have. I've got my main expression is text. Yes, it is. And supplementary expression is a still image. Yes, because in this picture book, there is mostly a large chunk of the content is text. So I can also see, oh, yes, I have a main aggregated expression and the aggregated, the further aggregated expression, we have decided not to record. And this is a decision that every institution can make themselves, what they record and what they don't decide not to record. We just because there are 2 expressions there, we are not required by RDA to record all the expressions. And in this instance, we have decided not to. Okay, so I can, if I wanted to, so I'm going to go back up to the top. I think that's going to be the easiest way. And I can just go back down to what sort of aggregate I've got, and I can then click through to my still image map. That will take me through to the map. I can double check that I've got an extension plan that is a static plan. I've read through my guidance. It is an augmentation aggregate. So then I can start going through and picking the elements that are mandatory, if applicable, and so forth. Okay, so this is how we would, this is part and parcel of everyday work. This is how our cataloguers work. However, of course, we are still in an implementation phase, that not all of our material is, we've trained on all of our resource types, sorry. So there are occasional changes that we need to make. And as our cataloguers catalogue and they say, not sure about this, perhaps we need further guidance. And we can do this. So by using the documents in Toolkit, and having these under our control, we can add to them as required. So if I go back to my now I'm going to go back to, actually that would probably work for me, to a date of publication. So the way we have decided to indicate that there are potential changes in our policy statements, we have, it is not this one I want, not a date of publication, but a name of publisher. What we have also decided to do is put the map elements in alphabetical order. The cataloguer can work through these in whichever order they please. There's no requirement there, but it was the easiest way that we could think of to find the elements that we need. Most people have got a way of working through them. Some go directly to title first and then start working from there. Others pick their mandatory elements first and then look at the other alternative elements. It is up to the cataloguer. So I've got a name of publisher, maybe one of the elements that I need, and I've gone to my name of publisher and I go down, read my policy statement first. Yes, we need to do this, but oh, I've got this little post-it note here. So my post-it note says, this is that our policy statement is actually changing and we need to look at guidance to see what that new policy statement is. So if again, clicking through to guidance, I can, and you will probably already have seen this, but I need to just double check if there is a change. And it comes down, and indeed I do have a change. We've put them in salmon. These are ready for the June release. And the guidance that we had was was only for musical sound recordings. Well, we have started cataloguing or describing our archived websites. So we have an addition for websites and we record the publisher for the original website only. So that is further guidance, but that will sit there until the June release when these will go into Toolkit, those policy statements updated, and then they are taken out of this guidance document. Right, so if I put that down there, I should hopefully go back at my PowerPoint. We have also decided to add authority data, so of works and expression descriptions into our local ILMS. We do contribute to NACO, and we will continue to do so. But for some of the entries where there are no NACO authority records, and there are unlikely to be any at least in the foreseeable future, and where our practice may differ from what original RDA says, which is what NACO is using, and what official RDA says, we have decided to create these records in ALMA, which is our local ILMS, and at some future date, when we have somewhere to put them, of course, we will share them as we normally would. And these are the very short authority records that we start with. These will be upgraded, but these are what cataloguers create, and that's what they can then use for elements, for example, manifestation work manifested or manifestation expression manifested. We have, as we've said multiple times, are releasing our training to publicly, and that's the link to the our training website. So if people want to go and have a look, we've still got some material to go in there. So as we are working on music and serial works, archived websites, as those materials that training becomes ready and available, it will be added to that niche academy site. Okay, so thank you to my colleague Catherine, who found this wonderful image. I do like the rather bamboozled or seemingly bewildered look. I hope I haven't bewildered everybody by jumping around Toolkit. So if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them. And I'm very lucky to have my colleagues, Anushka Maguire and Teresa Preston, with me this morning as well. And they may be able to help me out if I'm not sure of a question. And remember, you can always ask questions via that NZNB email address at any time. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Ebe, for this so much impressive presentation, and congratulations to the whole team who did it, who was involved into the project. And I think it's so much well done. And yes, does anybody of the RAC have now any questions or comments for Ebe and her colleagues? Everybody's overwhelmed, I think, Ebe. It's really great what you achieved. And can I ask how long the project was? What time, in which time you solved all this?
In what way? The documents
How
have been
long
built.
took the project? 2 years, 3 years, or 2 months?
I'm actually going to potentially, if because I'm a latecomer to the National Library, so Charlotte's been involved from the beginning, but Anushka has as well. Also, I might, just before we answer that question, Renata, just note that, as Charlotte has reminded me, the post-it note images are only viewable for us internally, because that is part of the profile. But anybody looking at our guidance can see how our guidance has changed, because that is where the policy statement changes.
Yeah.
So the project itself, when they started, Charlotte and Anushka, I think was about 5 years ago.
Yeah, just about that. Yeah. I can imagine that such a project needs a certain time.
Yeah. Well, that's when that was at the, Charlotte, please go ahead.
I think it would be fair to say, yes, it's been approximately that. We started quite slow. We thought it would be a lot quicker than it was, and we have ramped up. But I think really the deep dive has given us such a deep understanding, and that has led to further changes as we have properly understood what we're working with. So yes, it's been a long build up, but I think it's our hope that others will be able to look at what we've done and pick out which bits seem sensible to them and save that time and focus in on the bits that don't work for them instead of having to start again.
Sure. I can completely understand this, and coming from my experience with the DACH region, we took a long time for elaborating a concept first. What would we like to do? Where would we like to go? With whom we would like to do it? And this makes definitely sense to start with such a huge project. So.
Yeah. And of course, as the more we describe resources, the more we see, oh, well, yes, that was a very good decision at the time, but we may need to tweak it, and we can, because we've got that control over those documents. Even if we need to update a policy statement, we can do so. We can highlight that to our cataloguers in real time, so to speak. And then it goes into the CMS part of Toolkit.
Yeah.
But we are in the Toolkit. We work in the Toolkit. The only thing that doesn't live in Toolkit is, for example, the how we use our local ILMS. That, of course, sits outside in our internal content management system, as does information on potential workflows or processes. But how we could, for example, construct those expressions, work, headings, that is all in Toolkit. Those instructions are all in Toolkit.
Yeah. Okay. Further comments or questions from the RSC? Questions or comments from the observers? Yes, there is a raised hand. Thurston, please.
Hello, everybody. Hopefully you can hear me.
We can.
Thank you. I was very impressed by that presentation. Thank you very much, Eb. I think it's fair to say that besides being one of the earliest implementers of the new toolkit, you've taken one of the most purist approaches to doing so. And certainly there are aspects of what you've done which are quite well, I think fair to say, very insightful. For example, your approach to string encoding schemes. I have a couple of questions. One, I noticed when we were looking at the data publication, a reference to DCRMR, but also noted your decision locally not to apply soft deprecated elements. DCRMR does include what the RSC regard as soft deprecated elements, for example, parallel statements. Have you chosen as an institution to only selectively apply DCRMR?
Actually, I'm not sure, because my area that's in our rare books and special materials. If Charlotte or Anushka or Teresa know better, please come in. But I would say probably yes, then selectively, because we are not using soft deprecated elements. Charlotte, I can see your mic's off.
It's my understanding that we are not. However, our training in the rare books area with official RDA is still ongoing, and policies are still being tweaked and developed. So the initial approach was simply to follow what was done there, and now that we're beginning to develop that training for those people, the cataloguers working in that area are sense testing each thing as they come across it, and that will come out in time, and quite likely some of those policy statements will change. But those policy statements that point to that other documentation belong to that option and not as a general thing. So we will be specific about where we do and where we don't.
Thank you.
Okay, further comments or questions? Thank you, Thurston. I cannot see any hands raised. So we thank you such a lot for being here at that very much inconvenient time. It's just even nighttime. So thanks a lot for being here with us, for presenting us what you did. And I think, oh, I see here, oh yes, Thurston is clapping hands. I think we all can do this, and thank you very much. And I think if any of you here in the audience have further questions, you can join Ebe, Charlotte, Anushka. Anyway, at any time, I think. And thank you very much.
Most welcome.